Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight to review the one-year Masters of Science in Nutrition here at the Institute of Human Nutrition in New York City. With me today, I have, my name is Kim Hekimian. I am on faculty in the program, and I also direct the program. I teach the coursework in public health nutrition, and I also teach coursework at the medical school in global and population health. With us tonight are three of my favorite alum, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and say what they're doing now. These alum will be able to answer questions for you at the end of this webinar, but I will ask them to chime in on some of the slides that I'll show you shortly. So I will go in order, and I'll ask Rosie to start, and then Harsha, and then Damalari. If you could each introduce yourselves to our prospective students today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rosie Majdalani, and I graduated from the IHN in 2022, and I have since gone to med school. So I just finished my second year at California Health Sciences University in Fresno, California, and I was so lucky to do this one-year master program. I learned a lot, and I actually just recently, from the research I did at this program, attended the AHA conference in Chicago for my thesis presentation. So I got published by their journal, and that was such a really cool opportunity. So I'm really grateful and happy to be here.
When we get to the thesis section, we'll ask you to tell the details of that. And Harsha?
Hey everyone, my name is Harsha Sripadrao. I graduated from Columbia IHN in 2023, and now I'm a second-year medical student at the Medical College of Georgia. I'll be starting my clinical rotations in January, and I take step 1 in a week. But super excited to speak with y'all about IHN. Some of my favorite years in academics.
That's great. Thanks. And thanks so much for taking the time for us. Step 1 next week. Thanks. I hope we're a happy distraction for you. And Damalari.
Hello, everyone. My name is Damalari Uyetibo. Alongside Harsha, I graduated from the IHN in 2023. Since then, I actually worked as a biochemistry EA for the IHN for about a year. And then I moved to Virginia to help out with my family. And then in Virginia, I took a role as a youth counselor at the Juvenile Detention Center. So that's what I currently do now while in the application cycle for medical school, hopefully matriculating next summer. But I'm happy to share my experience at the IHN and then answer any specific questions you have later on.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. You can mute your video and audio and then come back on when I prompt you for the classes, okay? All right, let's get started here. So this is a photograph of the George Washington Bridge, which connects New Jersey, the state of New Jersey, with the state of New York. That's Manhattan. And those buildings behind the bridge, the tall ones, are actually buildings on our medical campus. And I'll talk about where we're located pretty soon. Besides, me as the faculty director here, we have Alex Sosa, who's here on the left of this photo. Alex is our program coordinator, and he is also on this call, video off, and he will be answering some of the questions that we have at the end of this program. And then next to me here is Dr. Monique Madra. She's the associate director of the program, and she teaches coursework in the program in physiology and pathophysiology, and she also directs the thesis planning and research methods coursework throughout the year and helps you determine who you're going to work with as a mentor for thesis. And finally, on the right, Sarah Berggren is our senior manager, and she will be also available to you to answer questions about your application moving forward. Okay. Let me see if I can find. So I'm going to spend about 30 minutes, maybe less, going over some slides, and then we're happy to stay on as long as you need to answer all of your questions. You can put those questions in the questions box, which is on your control panel, the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll answer those, as we get them. You can put those in as they're asked. We'll cover why get a master's in nutrition science, and we'll talk about our one-year curriculum, your personal and professional growth, and also what are some common career and education paths after the master's program. And we'll spend a minute on your student life in New York and then get into questions about the application. So why nutrition and why nutrition now? This is a slide from the US Centers for Disease Control showing the leading causes of death in the US in 2022. And I want to point out here that these are the top 10 causes of death, and all of them, with the potential maybe exception of unintentional injury, although even fragile bones and fractures and things like that due to accidents are also nutrition related. But really, we're talking about heart disease, cancer, COVID-19 and other infectious diseases, stroke, respiratory illnesses, Alzheimer's, diabetes, kidney disease, and liver disease. All of these are associated with nutrition, right? And yet we don't have a lot of nutrition education in a lot of our health professional programs. And the Masters of Nutrition Science here at Columbia, this is our sweet spot. This is our mission, is to try to prepare people on the fundamentals of nutrition science for them to take forward in their careers. And just one more slide here. This is published in JAMA in 2018, and it is the result of a large study called the Burden of Disease Study taking place at the University of Washington at the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. And essentially what this slide is showing are the risk factors related to mortality in the United States over the last 30 plus years. And really, the 5 most important risk factors are poor quality diet, high blood pressure, high body mass index, high fasting plasma glucose, and high total cholesterol. However, tobacco use is still number 2. So when we think about nutrition, we always want to think about it within the context of other issues that are also going on with our patients and our populations. So why nutrition now? As I said, nutrition plays a critical role in most health issues, and our program prepares students for a broad range of careers to address this global challenge. And many of our students pursue careers as doctors, dentists, nurses, registered dietitians, physical therapists, physical assistants, public health workers, researchers, entrepreneurs, consultants, and more. So where does all this happen? It happens during our 1 year at the Columbia University Irving Medical Center. I've already described this photo to you, but where we're located, if you see on that map in the red stars, we're located on the upper west side of Manhattan in a neighborhood called Washington Heights. Some of you may be familiar. There's a film and a Broadway musical written by Lin-Manuel Miranda about Washington Heights. And we're very excited that we are able to take place our classes and our research take place at the CUIMC, which is, a world-class leader in scientific research, health and medical education, and in patient care. What do we do in this 1 year? This is a quick review of our timeline, just so you know. We have coursework and a thesis, right? And in the fall term, we start September to December like a regular fall semester, and we focus mostly on our coursework. And during this first semester, you get matched with a thesis mentor. And then in the spring term, you'll continue on the required coursework. You also get to take some electives, and you'll be starting your thesis research part-time, somewhere around 10 to 15 hours a week. Then in the summer term, that will go, from mid-May on, you will be working full-time on your thesis research. Some students are matriculating to other programs, and they may need to finish their thesis research earlier. If that's something that you're interested in, we can talk about that as well. So you'll be doing a research-based thesis, which I think is one of the jewels of our program, and you receive quite a bit of mentorship in our program, including, if you want to, meeting with a pre-health advisor. The pre-health advisor, who is from the post-bac program at Columbia University, is also our pre-health consultant. This is a slide which shows more specifically the coursework you'll be taking, and I'm gonna, in a minute, I'll call up the alumni to discuss these classes, but I wanna show you that in the fall, you'll be taking all courses that are required by our program. You'll be taking them together as a cohort, and so you'll be meeting, your colleagues and classmates. In the fall semester, you'll be taking all of your classes with them. Our cohort size is around 60. So you'll be taking biochemistry. In the fall, we talk about how the body metabolizes the macronutrients. And in the spring, the biochemistry course looks at the micronutrients. You'll take physiology and nutrition through the life cycle, introduction to epidemiology, looking at how the study designs impact how we study the impact of nutrition on health outcomes. You'll take a course in critical reading of the biological and clinical literature, where you will sit around in a circle and literally pick apart some of the journal articles assigned to you. And then I teach the intro to public health nutrition. We talk a little bit about why people are not able to meet the nutrition guidelines that we have. And then, as I said, you'll get to match with your thesis mentor in the fall semester. In the spring, we continue with biochem, as I mentioned. You'll be taking our clinical nutrition course, the integrative nutrition and pathophysiology course, that's in the spring. And you'll be continuing with thesis planning and research methods in the spring semester, because you'll be working on your thesis and bringing that back into that knowledge back into the classroom. In the spring, you're able to take electives. In this gray box on the right, you can see the electives that are taught by us or taught at the, at the medical center that you can choose from. And in the next slide, I will show you can choose courses from anywhere in the graduate schools at Columbia University. I'll get to that in a minute. I just want to point out that any of the classes listed here with the diamond bullet in front of it can count towards your science GPA if you are applying to medical school after our program. Okay, so you can, if you maximize, you can get up to 26 what they call BCPM credits towards your AMCAS application. So with that, I've talked a lot. I'm going to ask now the alumni to come back on, and I'll ask each of you, and I'll just go in order of, we had Rosie, Harsha, and then Damalari. Please tell prospective students a class that you either particularly enjoyed or one that was important for your career, anything you'd like prospective students to know about the coursework.
Okay, so I'll go first. Of course, it's really hard to just pick one because I really found every one of them to be beneficial specifically for medical training. Number one, biochem was super important. I mean, my first block in medical school was biochemistry, and Dr. Egal, when he taught it, was just incredible. He made it fun, he made it reasonable, concise. So that was extremely helpful because it kept the science alive in my brain for a hot minute before I went to med school. And I also loved critical readings. It was a very tough course. Shekar, if you guys join the program, you'll know that Shekar teaches it. And it was really the first time I was put in front of a piece of scientific literature and told to really dissect it. And he would sit us in a circle and say, what are your thoughts? What do you think the pros are? What do you think the cons are? And everyone would raise their hands and we'd have like these really incredible discussions. So now when I see like literature that that is just coming to light on news and whatever, and maybe in school, I look at it with a different lens because of the tools that Shekar taught us. So that was extremely beneficial. So I really enjoyed those two classes as well.
Thanks. Harsha?
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a lot of classes that I really enjoyed, but two really stood out to me. The first one is public health, taught by our very own Dr. Hakimian, and I'm not just saying that just because she's on the call. It's probably one of my favorite classes I've taken ever, just because how involved you get in with the community around you, but also you understand the systemic issues that are there across the entire country, specifically New York City, and how that impacts people's lives throughout. An example of something that we got to do was we were assigned with a group to go out into different communities, low-income communities across New York City. So my group and I went to the Bronx and do a food analysis of what type of food was available for those people in those communities to eat. And we found out that the area I was in, South Bronx, was a food swamp where it's very much unhealthy food across the entire community, which really impacts chronic conditions and even mental health of people around us. And the second course that I would say is really, really relevant to what I'm doing now in medical school is critical readings, like Rosemary said. It's an intense class just because you're in a seminar based, and it's discussion based. So everybody goes around in a circle and talks about different papers that are that Dr. Shaker gives us, but really provides you a great background to read and critically analyze scientific literature.
Thanks. All right, Damalari, now it's on your shoulders.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything Rosemary and Harsha mentioned already. But granted that I loved one class so much, I applied to become an EA for that class. Number one class that I really enjoyed at the IHN would be biochemistry. Coincidentally, I did fairly poorly in biochem in undergrad. And then the intensity of a master's level biochemistry course is amped up. Yet I really enjoyed learning about real life scientific concepts that apply to public health as we were learning in the other class right at the same time. I felt like this class really helped evolve the way I learn and feel a lot more confident in learning. And I did well. And then I became an EA for the class and then helped other students also learn and do well in the course. I also loved the thesis planning course. I think the second semester particularly because we were also in these very small groups where we got to talk about the methods and the hypotheses. And we really, you were being poked and probed about what question you were asking in a small group setting and it allowed you to think about what you're trying to ask and what answers you're looking for. So I loved all the classes, but I would pick those two if I had to choose.
Great, thanks. So now I'm going to ask you to mute and come on in just about 2 slides and talk about your thesis work, okay? Let me just finish up with coursework. So what I mentioned is that gray box on the right are the electives that are taught, by us. That you can take, and you can see the list: biostats, essentials of nutrition counseling. We have a new one this year, lifestyle medicine. Our obesity course is well known. It's based on a continuing medical education course that's taught for physicians throughout the US for those who are studying to become board certified in obesity medicine. And we have narrative medicine, and we have an also very interesting structured observations in clinical medicine course where you shadow clinicians, but you bring that back into the classroom when you're doing case presentations, as you would do sort of a case presentation and for patient interaction at medical school. But as this shows here, you can take a graduate level elective anywhere in the university. And I think that's a special opportunity for some students who really want to get exposure to something else, right? So this is a photograph of Low Library on our iconic Morningside campus. This is at 116th Street. Our medical campus is 168th Street. There are inter-campus shuttles that you can take as well as the subway. So some student favorites are listed here in alphabetical order that you can see, but on the right, you can see that students have taken coursework in other graduate schools. So, business school, law school, school of public health, school of engineering. We have students who are taking a language class. We have students who are taking, sociology class, something that you're particularly interested in. You can use towards, focusing on your own pathway for this master's in the spring semester. So that completes our discussion of courses, but now really one of the jewels of our program is this: even though it's a one-year program, you do get to focus on thesis research. And we have thesis research that's basically in 3 different buckets: basic science of nutrition, clinical nutrition, and public health nutrition. About 1/5 of our students publish their thesis work. As Rosie mentioned, she just got published at the American Heart Association Journal of Circulation. I believe, Harsha, you've published your thesis work as well. And what's exciting is that you get to become sort of expert in a slice of the scientific field while you're with us for that year. Many of our students continue to have a relationship with their thesis mentors after they finish the program. And before I ask the alum to jump on, I just want to say that we also provide thesis travel awards, where we help subsidize travel to a conference to present your thesis research. And many, many of our students do end up having the opportunity to present at these national and international meetings where, you know, they can network and meet other colleagues in the field that they're interested in. So with that, and we actually have Rosie, we have your photo on this slide. With that, I'll have the three of you come back on. And if you could just briefly describe the research that you did when you were with us, and then I'll just move forward with the rest of the slides. So Rosie, go ahead and start, and then we'll go Harsha and Damalari.
Sure. So I did my research with Dr. Farbad Raizadeh, and it's actually so cool because I'm currently a research coordinator for him, so I'm still working with him. I'm actually working with the current IHN students now, and I'll meet them shortly this week. And I did clinical research path. So as you can see on the photo there, my thesis was the effects of illicit drug use on congestive heart failure patients and hospital readmission rates at Harlem Hospital Center. So I worked with a fairly underserved population and looking at a very niche study. And it was very insightful. I learned so much. I was able to, this was my first big research project that I took on myself. And so I was able to collaborate with 2 other IHN students. And it has really given me some career highs, like being able to travel to Chicago, present in front of all of these seasoned professors, seasoned doctors, and being the youngest student there and being an actual medical student. And I just kept I was shocked, like, wow, IHN really helped me get here, because without it, I wouldn't have these many connections. And I really believe that the work that I did at this hospital allowed me to get into med school as well, because I did this research, but I also nutritionally counseled heart failure patients on the side. And that was also eye-opening, because along with this, I was able to use the tools that the courses gave me, like in person. So I was able to apply motivational interviewing from the nutrition counseling course. I was able to talk to patients about their dietary restrictions and what that looks like in a very visually aiding and pleasing way, so it wasn't scaring patients. So I gained a lot of patient rapport and a lot of introspection on what the research world looks like. So really, really cool stuff.
Thank you. Harsha?
I also got a chance to do my research thesis in a clinical setting. So I did clinical research with Dr. Alpana Shukla, and she's actually at Weill Cornell Medical School. So I was at the Cornell campus doing clinical research over there at the Weill Cornell Hospital. And my studies was focused on diabetes and the impact of food order or nutrient sequencing, whether you eat your carbs or your proteins first, and how that affects your glycemic levels in your blood. And it was such an amazing experience. There's an optional, I think they still have it called the IHN Retreat, an optional poster presentation that you can do. And I got a chance to do it. And they give out awards over there. And I got a chance to actually publish the research that I was working on with a team of medical students, researchers, and Dr. Shukla for the Diabetes Care Journal recently. So those connections that I've made, it's honestly like a family that you come into. Along with IHN, your research lab, you work with them pretty heavily your second semester and a little bit in your first semester as well. And in the summer, you're almost full-time over there at the research lab. So it's a really great experience in getting your feet wet in research, but also getting something tangible out of it.
Great. And Damalari, can you describe your work as well?
Yes, just like Rosemary and Harsha, I was also in a clinical setting. My research mentor was Dr. Jennifer DeFazio. She's a pediatric surgeon at Morgan Stanley's Children's Hospital. So that's just a children's hospital attached to Columbia University. And I struggle to briefly talk about my research because I love talking about it so much. And it's almost always the subject of discussion in any interview for med school right now that I'm in. But my question was really to understand the impact of fiber and water intake in post-operative complications after kids received surgery for a very rare disease. And this disease was called Hirschsprung's disease, which is just a disease that causes the neurons in the large and small intestine to be missing, and just causes a lot of digestive issues. So a surgeon goes in, excises or removes those part of the colon that's dead or so, reattaches it, and then as they grow up and as they start to get a sense of independence, really tailoring what they eat, how they eat, and then their physical activity really is key to their sense of independence. So this is still an ongoing study, so talking about the connections that are down the line 3-4 years from now, some studies take a while to really mature and get useful data to be published. So I really enjoyed this because it sort of got me into clinical research and really made me realize I love doing something like this. But it also opened doors where I didn't think were available. So part of our research meetings would be research meetings plus parent meetings would all sit around in this round table. You'd have Dr. DeFazio, the nutritionist, the social worker, the parent. And then listening to these conversations, I found that there was a gap where nutritional education could be useful. So I was able to collaborate with New York Presbyterian's publishing department to print out rhymes and sort of just little poems for parents and their kids to take with them. Coming into this, I didn't think this would be anything remotely close to what I was doing. So this was just sort of in conjunction with my research project, but I really love it and something I'm excited to see mature over time.
Great. And as I recall, I think you were able to observe the surgeries too. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I was in there any chance I got. So I love going to the OR as well with Dr. Fazio. So a lot of shadowing opportunities in the hospital.
Great. All right, I'm going to have you guys mute, and I'm just going to go through a few other slides, and then we'll stop screen and just do Q&A. Okay? Thanks. All right, so far we've talked about why it's important to get a master's of nutrition, and we've talked about what the 1 year entails in terms of coursework and thesis. But I want to say that we also help you focus on personal and professional development. It's a year of growth. It's a pretty intense program. You'll understand more about the importance of academic integrity, particularly in the research field. You'll get better experience with formal presentation and public speaking skills, interviewing skills. Your study skills and time management will be key to your success and your work-life balance, and that's something that all of us can continue to work on and take with us into our future careers. You will learn to feel comfortable speaking extemporaneously, particularly about your research. And of course, you'll be developing your science writing, both in the classroom and for your final thesis manuscript that you're writing, right? We also, even though we're a 1 year program, we actually have a student government, and we encourage you to join and develop your leadership skills. We have course representatives that are liaisons with each course and each faculty to the program overall. We have a class secretary, and you can work on a variety of different committees and create a committee if there isn't one already in place. So, all of our alum have participated in a variety of capacities in our student leadership while they were with us. And it's a great opportunity to make friends, but also to, develop your skills. We also encourage community service for the public health nutrition course. We now have a requirement that you do some community service that you get academic credit for in the food insecurity space. New York City experiences quite a bit of food insecurity, and there are a lot of different organizations that need volunteers to be able to do the work and the mission that they are focused on. So this is also a nice way that you can work with others from the IHN, but you can meet others in New York City as well. We do pride ourselves on having a passionate and accessible faculty. Of course, I'm on the faculty, so I'm a little bit biased in saying that, but I think our alumni would also express that we really want the best for you, and we want to meet your needs. Our doors are open. We have office hours. We meet with people, outside of office hours. We have social events with the students as well. And we really think, again, that this is one of the key variables to our success. In addition to the Institute of Human Nutrition, if you join our program, you are a student at Columbia University. So the resources at the university are also at your disposal. That includes, the Student Health and Wellbeing Center. That includes our fitness centers, all of the university life events, discount tickets, library access at all of our campuses, right? At the medical campus, the Morningside campus, and we have a new one in Manhattanville where the business school is. All of these are open to all of our students, and the faculty, staff, and our alumni, and we have a great alumni network. They're always behind the scenes making sure you have a good experience. We want to encourage you to find a good work-play balance, right? You're in New York City, and we want you to be able to explore all that New York City has to offer. We encourage students to, to study in groups as well, but also to socialize in groups as a cohort. We put on some social events, but many students are organizing, events outside of the classroom and outside of sort of the formal program organization. Our classes start at the end of August and they go through till the following summer, right? About 12 months, but we don't make you come back for the commencement thereafter. We have you walk with the others, for the commencement of all of Columbia University, which happens the third week of May. And then the day after that, we have our own class year-end event where you cross the stage and your name is called and you can bring your friends and family to that event. And it's just a nice way to celebrate the end of the coursework, although it's slightly anticlimactic because you have to go back to your thesis setting the next day. But we just want to express that you will have an opportunity to celebrate the accomplishments you have here with your classmates and with your friends and family. Post-graduation, we have students going into a number of different fields, and this is in alphabetical order. People are going into business, communications, consulting, they go into dietetics, education, and so on. We are not a registered dietetics program, I just want to point that out, but there are other RD programs on campus. Approximately 2/3 of our alumni become physicians, right? So that means about 1/3 of our students go into other fields, and some of that is in other graduate school fields, and some, for many people, this is also an end degree that they're taking with them into the nonprofit sector or into the private sector in business or consulting or pharmaceuticals or something like that. And what about our application? We have a rolling admissions. Our application is open already, and it opened in December. It's actually open year round, but we just started to review applications that we have that are completed already this month. And we should be open until July unless our cohort fills up earlier this year, and we will let anybody who has started an application know that. I want to just review the quote that I have here in the photograph on the left, that your entire record is reviewed. There's no one score or one component of your application that makes you automatically non-competitive. We require coursework in biology, chemistry, and organic chemistry. And we recommend that you have an undergraduate GPA of 3.2 or above, and a standardized test score in the 60th percentile or above. However, you can apply even if you don't have those two metrics, because as we said before, we take a holistic approach to the application review, and you don't have to submit a standardized test score in order to be able to be reviewed. So if you don't have a standardized test score or you're not planning to take the test, you can still apply to the program, and we will let you know if we feel strongly that you would need a test to be able to have our final review. Two common questions are about financial aid and student housing, and then we're going to open up for the Q&A so you can start to put your questions into the, into the box. Like most master's degree programs, we have very limited amount of needs-based scholarship for accepted students. We do honor the Yellow Ribbon Scholarship for U.S. veterans, if there are any veterans on the call today. But we have a wonderful financial aid office that works with students to prepare federal loans and also to discuss external scholarship opportunities as well. And the other question we get quite a bit is about housing. We have both on-campus and off-campus housing options, and we have a wonderful housing office, and the staff in the housing office are there to help you also explore your options. So I remember, Rosie, I think you were off campus, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Damilare and Harsha might have been on campus, but we'll talk about that in the Q&A. And the earlier that you apply and the earlier that you're accepted, obviously the better off for everybody involved, because there will be more options for financial aid and housing earlier in this cycle. But if you're not ready yet to apply, don't worry, because these are both available to you towards the end of the cycle as well. So finally, I just want to say thank you for attending, and I'm going to stop sharing now and ask that our alumni come on while I start to look at the questions in the question box. Okay. So a couple of questions. First of all, yes, this webinar recording is available and will be sent to you along with other materials, including the slides from the presentation. And for prerequisite courses, we don't have an expiration date, but if it's been many, many years that since you've taken the courses, we might talk to you a little bit about how you feel about coming back into an academic setting full time. Canadian students are very welcome to apply to the program. We have quite a few international students, and we always have students from Canada every year. And frankly, they're some of our favorite students. You Canadians tend to be very, very, very nice and very mature. We've had great experiences with our Canadian students. And if you'd like to meet some other Canadian alumni, Alex and Sarah can make that connection for you. We do not have an expectation for students to have a strong background in research prior to being admitted to the program, because there are many mentors who are willing to spend the time to teach you. And it is a skill that you will get during the program itself. Does anybody have something to say about that? Do any of our alumni feel that they came in with not much research experience, and was that okay for you?
Yeah, I can go. I actually didn't have much research experience, and in fact, not really at all. I volunteered in a wet lab for a hot minute, but in undergrad, and I didn't really feel like I had a good grasp of the research world, but my mentor was really helpful and willing to take us on, so it wasn't a problem at all.
Okay, great. Thanks. So the GPA requirement, here's the thing. It's not a requirement. We have noticed, our data shows that, people who have at least a 3.2 have thrived in our program. But we recognize that life happens. And life particularly has happened in a way that's very, very challenging for people applying now, and that's the pandemic, right? So if there is a semester or two that you didn't perform well, that's affecting your overall GPA, and that you feel strongly doesn't fully represent your potential to thrive in our program, there is an addendum piece of our application. Please write to us. Tell us why you think that semester or two really didn't truly represent your true potential, okay? And we're happy to take a look at that. As I said, we look very holistically at the application. At the same time, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our applicants that are accepted will not struggle to the point of unhappiness in our program. So we just want to make sure that we feel strongly that the intensity of our program, which really brings our students together and our alumni together, as you can kind of sense here, we want to make sure that that's something that that you can handle and that you can manage. Okay, so would the alumni like to discuss, anybody, about what's the process for choosing your thesis?
Sure, I can go.
Okay, great.
Usually, every year there's a packet with all of the research mentors that are available, and it's divided into 3 sections. There's a public health section for public health research. There's a basic science section for like wet lab research, and there's a clinical science section. So you can find out what you're interested in, where you want to take your research, and go into that section. And there's tons and tons of mentors, so it's not like you'll run out of options. And some labs even take more than one IHN student. So once you find someone you like, you can email them, and then they'll get back to you about interviewing for their lab. And you can do this for a few different labs. I actually got a chance to start my lab a little bit early. I found a mentor that I really liked, and they were on the packet as well. So I reached out to them, and they got back to me soon, and I started working with them a little bit before school started in September. But if you don't like anybody in that packet and you have somebody in mind, I'm sure that IHN administration is more than open to working out something with you and them.
Yeah, I'll just add on to what Harsha said, that we have a list of mentors that have worked with our program over the years. And, you know, it's a great benefit to them. They get a skilled staff person for, you know, hundreds of hours in the year. And then we're happy because we get a great researcher to be part of our program. So there's a list, you look through that list, and then you choose who you want to approach. So you're not assigned a topic. And you approach a few people and you interview with them. They interview you, you interview them, and then you make your choice. As Harsha mentioned, we have more mentor slots than we have students, so everybody is guaranteed. And we don't want you to feel sort of nervous about that. We want you to know that all research is interesting as an education objective. For me, as a sort of the director of the program, I'm interested in you learning about how tough it is to do research well. That's really the educational objective, and that can be in, you know, in any different field. We happen to have 3 people today that did clinical research, but we have a number of students who are working in basic science labs, either animal mouse model labs, or, you know, or wet labs or dry labs. So we do have that as well. Average class size, we aim for around, you know, 55 to 65 students. It really depends on the quality of the applicants that we get. And let's see, recommendations, we should have at least 1 academic recommendation, because we need to know how you did, you know, academically. If you graduated a very long time ago and you can't reach those faculty, then you can let us know, and we can think about how best to guide you for that. If your undergraduate degree was completed some time ago and the prerequisites were taken, repeating classes does not adversely affect the application. No. I mean, it could be beneficial to you. There are a number of online extension courses. You may want to reach out to our program, to Sarah Bergeron, to see what other applicants have taken. Again, this is for you to feel comfortable coming back into the classroom if you've been out for a while. Every year we do have a few what we call sort of non-traditional master's students, which are people who are older and they bring so much to the table and so much into the classroom discussions that we very much value our non-traditional students as well. So yes, applications can be started in your senior year. If you're not currently in your senior year, you would want to wait until then. And, you know, we're coming to the end of the semester. So for some of you who are right in the middle of your exams, or you've just taken exams, you know, we do recommend that you wait and submit your fall semester grades to us, so that can be part of the application itself. And now I have a question to all of the alumni to discuss, which is, well, okay, first question just came right now. Do alumni get to access university resources? Our alumni get to access our own career services resources, which include letters of recommendation. It includes access to our pre-health advisor and we do some career networking programming as well. I don't know what other university resources you get access to, but you guys can answer that. But the other question that's broader for the alumni is, what advice would you have to a prospective student about how to best take advantage of the opportunities, or what advice do you have to them that you wish you knew before coming into the program?
All right, I'll take it. I'll go first. This was my first time living in New York City, and it was an exciting adventure to take on, and I wish I had even immersed myself further, but I don't think we got to talk about it, but there were a lot of extracurricular activities that us as a class would get to do together. So my class specifically started the Columbia Culinary Medicine Club, and I was on the board for that. I was a community service team member, and we had so many fun events where we would have like class case competitions where we could win prizes on who best created a nutritional case for a patient. There were culinary medicine cooking classes where we got together. I actually hosted like randomly a separate salsa dance club little teaching moment. I taught some students in our class how to dance salsa, and that was really fun. So I would just say be bold, take your passions and then expand on them, because there's always something to do in New York City regarding what you love. And our class was very close knit, so it was a lot of fun. We would go out together, we'd have birthday parties together, we would study together in the library. There's just so many options in New York. The opportunities are endless. So it was a great balance between study hard and then really have fun, because it's just like right next door. You know, you go out, you can have a bagel, you can do whatever you want with your friends. So I had a lot of fun, and you will never be bored, truly.
Does anybody want to add just a minute? And then I have another question. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add on a little bit to that. Seek discomfort. You're in New York City. There's so many things to do. Columbia is amazing school. The administration is phenomenal at IHN. So whatever goals you have, just ask them, and then they'll help you get to those goals. I actually am interested in health policy, and I didn't realize that until I started medical school. And I'm interested in global health and health policy, and I went to Geneva with a program with Duke University. And while I was in Geneva, I called up Dr. Hakimi, and she was in Armenia. And I was like, hey, do you have any advice for me to make the most out of this trip? And she actually called me back, and we talked about it. So whatever goals you have, just make sure you communicate that with the administration, the people around you, and such a supportive family that they'll get you to where you want to go.
Great. I want to address a really good question, and I'll just read it out loud. For a student who's unsure of their next steps, how would you say this program exposes them to different career options and helps them navigate through this decision? So that's a great question, and I'm so glad you asked it, because even though we have 3 alumni who have chosen medicine as their field, they each have classmates who were unsure, who came in sort of thinking maybe medicine, maybe healthcare, but took their time over the year to be exposed to a number of different guest lecturers, for example, a number of different research fields. And, you know, many students decided that they no longer want to pursue medicine, they want to pursue something else, or they decided to wait and to continue to explore by graduating and going into a research field or going into a work field and thinking a little bit more about whether they want to commit to the medical degree or they want to pivot to something else. And I would say that happens quite a bit. I would say that you're exposed to a number of different fields through the guest lecturers we have and through the faculty. Not all of our faculty are, for example, I'm not a clinician, so many of our faculty are either researchers or or PhDs in different fields. We have, you can get exposed through our clinical observations elective in the spring semester to different clinical practices, including dentistry and registered dietitians and physician's assistants, nursing, of course, nurse practitioner program. So I would say this. I would say if nutrition is an area of interest to you and you're interested in the interdisciplinary science of nutrition, you will get a lot of exposure to different things that you can do, thereafter. And I don't know if the alumni have, if you want to add anything to that question. I thought that was a very good and important question. And I just want to say also that we don't require that your bachelor's degree be in nutrition. It can be in anything, as long as you have some science coursework as prerequisites to be able to manage our biochemistry and our physiology and pathophysiology courses. I would say that those are the three courses that really we want you to have had exposure to biology, to chemistry, to organic chemistry, and or biochemistry. It's not required biochemistry, but we do recommend it. It would be helpful. But again, you have to have sort of an interest in the sciences, but you don't have to have majored in them. Okay.
I'd love to add on to that. I was pretty sure of my track in medicine, but while I was in the program, while I was applying to med school, I really started taking up some really cool activities. Like I started writing grants for my research coordinator to start a teaching kitchen in Harlem. And if I didn't get into medical school that cycle, I would have stayed in Harlem and tried to have this idea that I had come to fruition. And I was so willing to work with Columbia University and so on. There were so many paths that I never really knew existed. Like we had a diabetic endocrinologist come and speak to us as a guest speaker, and she was so passionate about culinary medicine. And so she would come to us and create these healthy recipes with us. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know I could do that as a career path. Like I could become a doctor, but I could also do this. And even with the intro to epidemiology class, obviously we've all gotten a taste of epidemiology with COVID, but that was really cool to see. Oh wow, look at Dr. Nevis, like she took her career path and turned it into an academic research professor path as well, and that also sparked my interest in epidemiology. So even if you are set on a certain path, or if you're unsure, there are little tidbits here and there with the certain guest speakers that come that kind of like make a light bulb go off in your head. I had no interest in research whatsoever. And then when I put dipped my toe in the water, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool if you have the proper support, funding. I mean, I was able to have the travel grant from the IHN, and I was so gracious for that. There's really, really amazing opportunities that come your way that you don't expect. So.
Thank you. So there was a question about, what makes your application, what makes you a stronger candidate. There's a personal statement where you can tell us, a little bit about yourself and about why you think that this is the program for you. And then there's also your transcript, your CV, letters of recommendation, and then there's an addendum that is optional, but if there's something more that you feel is not reflected already in those materials that you want the admissions committee to know, you're welcome to add into that addendum. As I said, there's no one component that will automatically, disallow you to apply. And again, if you really feel that this is the program for you, let us know and we'll be reading that. And if you have questions along the way, please reach out. All of you have my email. I sent you an email yesterday, but in addition, you have Alex and Sarah's emails, which are also on that letter. And then you'll be receiving all of our contact information. When this webinar finishes, you'll be receiving a recording of it, and you'll be also receiving the slides and the contact information. So with that, we are at 2 minutes to 6. I want to be very, okay. Actually, there's the one last question. I think this is a good one, and particularly for the students who applied to med school, like Damilare, you might be able to answer this. I believe, Oh, and Rosemary too. I think, I don't remember who had applied prior to starting the program, but the question here is the course so rigorous that one wouldn't get time to do all of the med school applications? So let me just start by saying a couple of things. Some of our students apply, our program starts at the very end of August. Some students, I believe, Harsha, you were one of these students, they apply in the cycle before the start of our program. So Harsha got his applications in the summertime and probably his secondaries as well. And then he had time, the faculty are very understanding about students who have interviews or medical school interviews during that time. We make sure that you don't fall behind in your courses for that. Other students decide that they will apply after the program, right? And so the question is, if you've applied prior to the start of the program, and if that's advisable to you from your pre-health advisor that you're ready to go, then we will give you that time for, medical school interviews. We recommend that you get your secondaries done before you start the program. And then if you decide that you want to apply at the end of the cycle, and again, if that's advisable, at that point you can work with our pre-health advisor as well. And if that timing is advisable, then the trick there is to work along the year on your own personal statement, and your work and activities list and the other components of med school application, so that you're not doing all of that just as you're finishing the end of your spring semester. And I'll open it up to alumni for any other advice if you think something would be helpful.
Yeah, I personally chose to delay my application intentionally because I wanted to immerse myself in the year, which goes by pretty quickly. Year of coursework and then the summer of research. So I fall in the category of students who applied to med school right after or after graduating from the IHN.
Right, and you actually took another gap year, and I think that's an important point, that Damalari chose to really immerse himself to show that he can handle the rigor of this level of graduate program, and to really immerse himself in research, and then take the year after that to do the application. So I think there's a bunch of different options here. If you have any specific questions, you feel free to reach out individually and we can get back to you on that. And that's true for the student who asked about, the student, I think, who did undergraduate a while ago. Feel free to reach out individually if you have some more questions. We're very happy to meet with you. We love our program. We love our students. We love our alumni. And we really want to build a cohort of people who want to be in this program and who are excited to be in this program, because it makes it great for us as faculty when that happens. So don't be shy about reaching out. And now I'm 2 minutes over, but I thank the alumni. Good luck with the step. To you, good luck, Damalari. Keep us in touch with what's going on with you, and to Rosie as well. We're really so proud that you represented us at the American Heart Association just recently this past month, and very excited to see that you're continuing to work, with the mentor that you had when you were with us. That's really just very satisfying for me to see as a program director. So thank you guys. Have a good night and stay in touch. Bye-bye.